Hey guys, so I have a fun video today, and that is why I named my kids what I named my kids, or why we named our kids, although my say was pretty much the main say in naming all of our babies. This is what I promised like weeks ago, and I'm sorry, but I'm just recovering from the crazy Christmas season. John's schedule is still insane, so I'm just recovering from Vlogmas. So all of my kids' names are very special. They all also had a name that we would have chosen if they were the opposite gender. And then what we do is we never use that name again. So I don't know, like hopefully, you know, they'll want to know what that name was, and maybe if they have a boy or a girl, they'll use that name. But we kind of retire that name with that child because each pregnancy is different, each season of our lives and our marriage is different, and so every name, whether it was a boy or a girl name for that child, was very specific to that season of our lives. So I'll start with Isabella. Now, Isabella's story is probably, you know, the most humbling story for us. For those of you who don't know, Isabella was 100% a surprise, and I absolutely did not want to have a baby, and I was freaking out, and I was finishing college. I still had another semester left, and John really stepped up to the plate and was just so good in that season. And sometimes I just can't believe, like, I was saying, like, no, we can't have a baby, I don't want to have a baby, and now she's such a huge blessing to our lives. But during that season of my life, I saw the movie Bella, and that had such a huge impact on me and my thoughts on the pregnancy. And we actually have the movie poster hanging over her bed just as a reminder, like, this was so much more of a blessing than you ever anticipated. And I still can't, I think back to that season in my life and I'm just like, oh my gosh, girl, I want to shake you. You had no idea what you were in for. I cannot believe that I fought it so hard. But thank God for John and his amazing grace and God's amazing grace, and just for him stepping up, because you didn't have to. A lot of dads don't. So her name, she's named after that movie. Her name before that, though, was going to be Savannah. I always wanted to name my first girl Savannah. I love the name Savannah. John and I love the city of Savannah. But he has a cousin named Savannah. And I actually didn't know up until like days before my baby shower for Savannah that, that he had a cousin named Savannah. And so I was just like, how could you not tell me this? So we changed her name, but it was based on that movie and I loved it. Her name, if she was going to be a boy, was going to be named David, and that had a lot to do with God's redemption and forgiveness and just the story of David, and so she was going to be David if she was a boy. Jesse, his name was easy as a boy. I always wanted my son to be named Jesse after my grandfather. He was a very strong man, and he passed away when I was a child, and nobody else had really chosen his name, although I think I was one of his youngest grandchildren, and so but also one of his first grandchildren to have I guess my grandmother and grandfather's first great-grandchildren. And so I did ask around. I made sure with all of my cousins that it was okay with them that I used the name Jesse, and they were all totally okay with it. And so it's been such a huge blessing to us to use that name. It's been great for our family to have that name back, and the funny thing is that everybody says, you have Grandpa Jesse's eyes, and it's true. He has the most icy blue eyes, and that's something that my grandfather was really known for. And I love Jesse's so, he has this big instinct. He wants to be a protector and a fighter, and that was just so much my grandfather. And so it's been really cool to see how that name just does fit him perfectly. If he was a girl, his name was going to be Penny. We were going to name him Penelope. I did consider the name Nicolette. I love the name Nicolette. I love the nickname Nico, but we decided to go with Penelope if he was a girl, because mine and John's wedding song was Penny and Me, and we just felt like having another child was such a blessing, and we wanted to honor our marriage by using our wedding song. So he was going to be Penny if he was a girl, and so again, we will never have a Penny because that was Jesse's name if he was a girl. So Eli's a funny name. because it's funny for us, and it kind of shows the transition of our marriage. Like Bella is like, oh, first baby, such a blessing, and then Jesse, you know, is just like, oh, he's just such a, I can't believe we were blessed with another child. And by the time we got to Eli, it was like, he was very much planned, perfect timing, and it's like kind of funny to like how our marriage has evolved over the years. Like we're very comfortable in our marriage. John loved the name Elijah. I loved the name Elisha. Neither one of us would compromise, and so Eli is Eli, and for two different reasons. For John, he's Eli because of the story of Elijah. For me, he's Eli because of the story of Elisha. He's just Eli. And then for him, if he was going to be a girl, his name for that was Johanna, and that was after John. We hadn't really considered using John's name before, and we thought, well, you do have an older son, so we didn't want to use John, but we were like, oh, we could use Johanna, and we love the name Johanna, but again, that retired with him. And then last but not least is Miss Annabeth, and her name is also incredibly personal to me, and so I don't think I've shared on YouTube. I know I've shared on Instagram, but I was adopted by my maternal grandparents as an infant, like a newborn baby. And of course, being adopted within your own family, there's a lot of blessings that come along with that because you are part of your own family. There's not a lot of questions that you have as far as your heritage or your culture, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't come with its own kind of conflicting feelings, because you do see, for example, I did see my biological mother's family and wonder how I would have fit in. I grew up very close to my half-brother and half-sister, and so there's always a sort of pull and a wonder, like why me, not them, and all that kind of stuff. I can do a whole video on that if you want me to, but long story short, she's not somebody that me or my siblings have contact with any longer, and I didn't struggle with that until I was an adult, and it was just a few different situations where I recognized I still struggle with that even as an adult. My younger brother and sister still struggle with it, but that's their story. But in the long run, I have always called my mom and dad, who are technically my grandmother and grandfather, I have always called them mom and dad. There's never been a doubt in my mind that they are my mom and dad. Never for a day called my biological parents mom or dad, or even mother or father. And even saying biological mother sounds strange to me because my mom, there's never been a day that I question that my mom is my mom. That being said, I didn't necessarily recognize until I was having Annabeth just how much of a refuge and a blessing my mom is to me. And so that being said, when I had Isabella, naturally I struggled with having a daughter because I still hadn't resolved a lot of the questions and the rejections I felt as a little girl as a mom. And so I had gone through counseling, and my siblings and I had worked through a lot of stuff together and just processed a lot together. And I really do praise God for my pastor, because he really helped me understand so much, and I just felt so much redemption from that past right before I found out I was pregnant with Annabeth. And so I was just feeling so incredibly blessed to have another daughter, and to get the opportunity to now take all of these things that I had learned, that I know to be true of myself, and just feel so confident in mothering a daughter. And so getting to have another girl, I mean, of course, Isabella is my whole world, and so I still absolutely I don't feel like I threw years away through the conflict with her, but I also didn't really soak up those newborn days as much as I did with Annabeth, because I was a baby when I was adopted. And so naturally, holding a little girl, you feel like, why was this not good enough for someone, you know? And so I struggled a lot with that with Bella, but I was finally able to just feel the love of Christ surround me as I was loving little Miss Annabeth. And so we picked her name because I suddenly began to recognize the incredible heritage of strong women that my girls are surrounded by now. And so her name's actually Annabeth Violet. I have my grandmother's middle name, my mom's mom. So I was able to use my mother's middle name is Ann, and John's mother's middle name is Beth, and so we put that together for Annabeth, just kind of staking her claim as being part of this family of wonderful women. And her middle name is Violet, based on my paternal grandmother's middle name. And when I say maternal and paternal, I mean the mom and dad that I call mom and dad. So my mom, Connie, her middle name is Ann. John's mom's middle name is Beth, and so Annabeth Violet, in tribute to my grandmother who just passed away, and then I have my other grandmother's middle name. So it's just this, it was to me very redemptive and very restorative to be able to say, okay, God, you're right, this is such a blessing, and I'm ready to take the next step in my life and move forward and know that I'm surrounded by a lot of women who really support and love me and my girls. And then her name, if she was a boy, was going to be Clayton. I love the Bible verse, like clay in the hand of the potter, so are you in my hand. And again, based on the season of life that I had just kind of walked through right before Annabeth was born, I felt like I really understood that I have been in the potter's hand this whole time. So, so her name would have been Clayton if she was a boy. And again, if we ever have more children, we will not have a Clayton. We will never have a Penny. We will never have a David. We will never have a Clayton. We will never have a Johanna. So that is my kids' names. I hope that gave you not only just an understanding of why we chose their names, but kind of a peek into who John and I are in our lives. So if this brought up any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I might do a whole nother video on, you know, my adoption, which is, it's kind of strange to say adoption sometimes because I've never really seen myself as an adopted child. It's always been a very natural process, and I give credit to my parents for doing that very well. But if you have any questions, if this brought up any other questions about John or I or our family, leave them in the comments below and I'll do my best to either answer them there or do another video. So I'll see you guys later. Bye.